Hi guys, well finally my parts have arrived for the top end rebuild. I've got a set of rings, I've got the seals that I need, I've got my Athena gasket set, and so it's all systems go for the motor rebuild. I've gone as far as I can with the frame. That's been painted, I've got a few little bits and pieces on it, but really I'm waiting for finer weather to arrive to get the wheels painted, get the fork legs painted, and get some of the plastic pieces painted so I can get the cable tray in and get it all wired up. Then I'll start on the tank and side covers and cowl later on. But yeah, we're moving ahead. This is good news. So let's start off with preparing the head ready for installation. So on these small inlet valves, I've been putting a bit of glue on them, like so, and then putting this tool I made onto it. So I've now got the valve glued onto this little tool I've made. I put a bit of grinding paste on the valve. That's working quite well. With this type of suction cup, keeps coming off every 5 seconds, so I got fed up with that and I made up this little glue rig, and it's working too bad. It does come off occasionally. You've got to re-put it back on there if you get on a bit of an angle. That's sounding pretty good now. So I'll clean that up. But yeah, the valve which is glued on, it will just, you just snap it off and it's nice and clean. And to get the glue off the holder, you just spray it with metho, and that will start to come off. That's how you can get that off, and just clean that up and you're ready to go again. So now I'm just going to check the seat with some marking red. No, I haven't got the blue, but just a little bit of this marking red on the valve. Just a slight coating like that on there. Just a slight coating of red. Just drop that into the valve seat. Just straight down and press that into the seat. Don't turn it. And then just push it back out again. Let's see what sort of pattern we got. Okay guys, I'm just checking the hydraulic tappets, and in the book it says to using this bleeder, which you can buy from Honda, to put it in some Kero and bleed the air out of it. See, you can see here at the moment, I don't know whether you can see that or not, but there is a fair bit of movement in that tappet. I've squeezed all the oil out of it, so it's just basically a hydraulic spring, isn't it? So I just put that into this little bleeder. It's got a pin in it, and put that into this Kero. And then bleed it out, and you see the bubbles coming out. I don't know whether you can see that, but there are bubbles coming out of that as I pump it. And just do that for a while till all the bubbles are gone, which is pretty much now. Then you pull it out, and the hydraulic tappet shouldn't have any movement, or only 0.2 of a mil movement in it. Now I tried setting it up with a dial indicator and it was a bit of a nightmare, you know. So I can see that there's hardly any movement in there now. So the next thing I'm going to do is just slowly squeeze the kerosene out of here and then bleed it with oil. So I'll get the kerosene right out of there. See that going up and down as kerosene slowly coming out of that hole. As I press it, I'm getting more and more movement there. Okay, I've now dried it and I've got a fair bit of movement there again, moving that little plunger up and down. So now I'm going to put this into the oil and just bleed all the air out of here with filling it with fresh oil. So I put my little tool in there, little bleeding tool, and put it into some fresh oil. So I'll bleed that, and see, you can see the air. I don't know, you can't see that probably, but there's oil, air bubbles coming out of that tappet. So I just keep pumping that until all the air is out of there, which is about there. That's pretty much there now. No more air bubbles coming out. So let's pull that out. And now it's rock solid. Can't move that. So I'll put that straight into the head. So okay, I've just had bled one in, and with the device, and just slide that into the pocket there. I've just been going along and filling these with oil as well, and give it a little squirt on top, like so. On to the next one. Okay, got the valve seals here, so we'll get them in and get the valves in. Okay, I labelled all my valve components. They've been lapped and I've had them in plastic bags. So this is the left hand side, this is the exhaust, this is number 1 and number 2 exhaust. So let's fit exhaust cylinder 1, number 1. Got my valve, I got my seat, the little washer goes on the bottom. Just sits down in there to protect the aluminium. Sits in a small groove down in there. Okay. So I've got my spring, and there should be 2 little collets in the air. Yep, there they are there. And there's my 2 collets. The valve seal can go on. I'll put a bit of oil on that. Lashings of oil all round. And that can go on there like that. Just dip the oil in. Okay, then we just bring our valve in. Just turn that as it goes through the seal. Like so. Valve's in. Okay, spring goes on. tight end down. Okay, just screwing that spring compressor in. Okay, I've got my headlight on now. So I'll just use my magnetic screwdriver and just drop that collet in. So there, that one's in. And there's the other one in. So just loosen that off. That's in there. Loosen our tool off. And that's the first of 16 valves in there. So I'll just give that a little tap with a hammer just to make sure that that is in correctly. I'll just give that a little knock down just to make sure that those collets are seated properly. Just a tap like that. Okay, 16 valves to go in. Okay, well the first thing I've got to do on the engine rebuild is to get the cylinders honed. Then I'll put the rings in and check the ring gap and get the rings onto the pistons. So here we go. Got our honing tool here. We'll make that in number 1. Put a bit of lube. There, give a bit of a wipe out. Have a look at that. That looks quite nice actually. And you can see, I'll give you a shot of that. I'll give you the other cylinders and I'll give you a look. But I'm quite happy with that. So I'll just give you a bit of a look at that. Okay, that's pretty much it. I see you can see it in there. But yeah, got some nice cross hatches in there. Should be enough. It's now time to fit the rings, and the first thing we've got to do is check the end gap in the bore of each, the top and bottom, middle ring. The top ring end gap is 0.15 to 0.3, and on the second ring it's 0.3 to 0.45. So let's fit these rings into the bore. Okay, here's my second ring. But the mark goes to the top always We'll fit that in the bore, like so, and then we'll just push it down with the piston. Keep it nice and square, like that. Take that out, and then we check that gap. You can see that gap there. So we check that gap there. Now I've got a 0.4 feeler gauge here, and that can't go in. I'll check a 0.3, and that does go in just nice. So that the end gap on that second ring is right, because we're between 0.3 and 0.45, so that's within spec. And then we'll check our top ring. Top ring goes in. Push that down with the piston. Keep it nice and square. About there. So I've got a 0.2 here. And that 0.2 is just going in. And there's a 0.3. And that's going, yeah, I can just get that in. Yep, a little bit bigger, but that's still okay. So we'll now fit these rings to the piston. Okay, next thing we'll do is fit our rings. So first thing we'll put on is our oil ring. Goes on into the bottom groove. And make sure that these don't overlap. You can overlap these, but they should just come together and touch like that on the join. Okay, so we'll put that there. Next we'll fit one of the bottom ones. And that one goes in like that. Okay, we'll stagger the other one, so the join of that one's there, so I'll put the join on the other side. Like that, join there, and join there. Okay, there. On opposite sides, but that's turning nice and freely. Next we'll fit our second one, which has a mark on it. That always goes to the top. Okay, and then our top one. Again, it's got a mark on it. Put that to the top. Whoops, I can grab that. There we go. Top there. And our top ring's on. These are now ready to fit into things. So all the grooves are staggered apart. Got to be careful of that. You don't want to line up. There's the other one there. There's those two together. We don't want that. So we'll come around the other side. Okay. That's them all staggered apart. I'll give them a good lashing of oil, and we'll now fit them to the conrod. Okay, it's now time to start fitting the pistons to the conrods. We start off with the left hand side, number 1, which is number 1. We'll have the piston with the in on the top of the piston facing the inlet of the motor. So a bit of assembly lube onto the small end to until the oil gets up and onto the actual conrod. So we fit that. Okay, we push that gudgeon pin home, and next we put the circlip on. Okay, let's get a bit of rag in here and we'll fit the circlip. Okay, circlip gets in. Let's hear that snap in. Okay, all 4 pistons are now on with the insides facing the inlet of the bike. Next thing's to get a gasket on. I like to coat my gaskets with copper gasket cement because I don't want them leaking. And we just got to make sure our dowels are in and that our dowels will line up on the gasket when we put it on. So let's get the gasket on. Okay, the gasket has been coated. Now we'll fit that to the block, to the crankcase. Okay, that's the gasket down over the dowels. So the next thing I want to do is really lube these rings up, ready for the cylinders to go on. So really give these rings a good coating of oil and work that in around the lashings of oil on here. Oil never goes amiss. Okay, cylinder's ready to go on. This cutout goes to the front. So that's number 1 there. See this cutout here? That always goes to the front. So I'll give these bores a bit of a lube. Okay, you've got the pistons on to the con rods. So the next step I'm going to do is raise 2 and 3 to the top of their strokes. So carefully take them up till they hit top lead center. About there. Okay, so they're at the top of the strokes, 2 and 3. Next we'll put I want to block these up so that they don't actually move. We'll pack them up. So I'm going to put a couple of rags in here so that they stay in position. Okay, with that packed up and sitting pretty straight, same with the other one. Alright, 2 and 3 sitting pretty straight there now. Take the cylinders up and get these on. We've just got them going in on the rings. Bring the chain up. Okay. Now we'll try getting these rings in. I just want to keep that piston as square as possible. This one's a bit cocked. Okay, we're down to the second ring on that one, sitting on it. On the second ring on that one. Okay, that's it. Two middle ones are in. So now I'll just tap that down a little bit. And they're going to be coming down, so we'll take these out. That's number one lined in. And number two. It's looking good. They always the rings kind of open up where the gap is. I think I might have, by Jove, I think I might have got it. Yep. Bingo, that's him down. Oh, very ticklish job that one. So that's the way I did it. Bring number 2 and 3 up to the top, put the cylinder on, get your rings in, keep the pistons all square, slowly get them into the bore, and then bring it down and get numbers 1 and 4 in. So yeah, I'm happy she's in. It's all looking good. I'll put the nuts on these cylinder hold down bolts here, and I'll just crank her over. Might be able to crank her over now actually, just to make sure everything's hunky dory. So once I get these cylinders on, I've got to lift the motor into the bike next. I don't want any scratches on my nice new frame. There's 1 and 4 at the top. And 2 and 3. So I'll now take it to top of the tenor actually. Bring number 1 up. And line up the T mark. And I won't move it from there. Which is about there. Okay, bolts on here. Well, sorry guys, I just forgot to press the record button just then, but slung this motor in and she went in. She flew in actually. So I've just taken the chain block off. Now I've just got to go and get the brackets onto the motor and get this motor settled into the frame. Well, that's it guys. The motor's back in the bike. Absolute piece of cake putting it in this way. Just flew in. I reckon it took me about an hour to get it in and get the brackets up on and bolted up. But yeah, the next stage is to get the head on, get the top end finished off. Hi guys, well it's the start of a new day. Motor got installed yesterday, so it's now time to get the head and get the top end complete. So I've just done my gasket, that's ready to go on. Okay, got my gasket here ready to go. So we'll just thread the cam chain through there. Like so. There we go. So the gasket's down. Okay, the head gasket's on. Next thing we've got to fit in is the cam chain guide. Now it goes this way, this up to the top. This slots into these two slots here, and this goes down into a slot in the bottom. So I'll just drop that into that slot and goes into there like that. Okay, we're ready to get the head on. So let's get this in, and we'll get this cam chain through. Okay, that's the head down, but we'll see if I can get in a bit closer. That cam chain guide is quite ticklish. Well, that's as close as I can get the camera to this area, but that cam guide that's there, it is quite ticklish getting in, because it's got to go into the slot down the bottom, and virtually when it goes into the slot at the top is when the head actually meets the surface of the cylinders. It's kind of goes in on an arc, so you've got to make sure the bottom is in, or if not in, on the cam chain sprocket down the bottom, and kind of push it in underneath between the head and the cylinder. Just keep pushing it in at the bottom, and then it'll sort of arc in as the head goes down, and everything comes together at the same time. This drops into the slot up the top, and the head meets the surface of the cylinders. But yeah, now it's totally locked in now, but yeah, it's a little bit ticklish getting that in. Okay, the cylinder head is down, so the next thing we have to put on is the copper washers. We've got 8 copper washers, so they go in here. Okay, nuts go on. So another chrome one, get him out of the way. These get tensioned up to 28 Newton meters. Surprisingly, it's quite low compared to some of the other bikes. So we'll just snug them up. There's no real tensioning pattern mentioned in the book. It just says loosen them in a crosswise fashion, and then installation's just the reverse of the removal. So I'll just do them in a crosswise pattern, just snug them up. Okay, just going through the final tension now. Alrighty, that's it. So the next thing we've got 2 bolts at the back here to connect the head to the cylinders, and 2 at the front. They're two different sizes too. The rear ones are a little bit shorter than the front ones. Okay, so they go in here. Okay, that's those two. And same for the front, just tighten those two front bolts up. Okay, the next thing to go on are these two oil lines, or pipes. This one probably goes on first, like that. Right, that one goes there. That one goes there. Whoops, nothing in. And that one goes there. So they go in there like that. Okay. Then we've got two small ones. Copper washer on there. With a fitting. And a copper washer on there. And that goes on there like that. The other side. And that goes on there. That all looks good. Alrighty, pipes on. Well, the next thing we're going to start getting in is the cam chain tensioner body and the cam chain slipper. Now they're going to go in like that with the chain running in between. So let's get this organised. Okay, I've got the, I'm round the other side, I've got the cam tensioner body in there like that with these two arms which have got to be connected to the slipper. Here's the slipper. It's got a flat on it on the side which lines up with the pin. The pin has to go in like that and line up with that flat. So the slipper goes in with this curve to the bottom. That goes in there like that. The chain goes in between, and then we've got to line that hole up and get that pin in without dropping it into the crankcase. And the next thing we've got to do is get the tiny little pin in. So we'll put a rag down here, because this could easily go horribly wrong. So there's our pin that has to go in. And there's it. I've got to find the hole. Okay. Holes there, and we push that in. There's the pin in. So one down, one to go. The next one goes up to here. Okay, that's the other pin in. Yeah, the tensioner had jumped down there, which made it a little bit difficult, so we'll get that other little split pin in. Okay, there's the second split pin in. Alright, we've got them in. And now this and drop into the here. Like that. Get our bolts in. The book doesn't mention putting Loctite on these bolts, but I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite on there. And these will get tensioned up to 12 Newton meters. Okay, that's the cam chain tensioner in there with its slippers. All looks good. Okay, it's now time to start putting the camshafts in. The first thing you've got to do is to make sure that we're on the top dead center of the left hand cylinder with the T mark lined up on the left hand side. And then we make sure our dowels are into on the camshaft. We've got 8 of them all together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dowels are in there. Next thing to get in is the camshaft or the rocker holders. Okay, let's get the tappet holders in. Got 2 holes here. They must have a dowel in them. So I've got a dowel here, just fit that into the hole for that one. And we've got one there. But then the tappet holders go in over the top. I'm just going to knock that like so. And then we've got the bolts in. Tighten them up. Make sure that dowel's right in. It'll go in with the bolt. Yep. That one goes in there. That's the actual holder in. No real mention of torque in there, but I'm tightening them up to 13 Newton meters. Okay, that's the holder in. Next we've got the actual rocker arms themselves. They just drop in on top of the hydraulic tappet and into the holder. Then the camshaft will be on top, holding the whole lot in. Okay, so we'll get all of these done and then we go for the camshaft. Okay, it's now time to get the 2 camshafts in, the exhaust and the inlet. So let's coat all these journals with assembly lube. Okay, we've coated all the surfaces with assembly lube. Next we want to get the sprocket in, and we have the sprocket facing the right hand side with the inlet in here, and we have to line that up with the edge there like that. So the camshaft goes through. Actually, I'll put the camshaft on first. Okay, I've got the camshaft sitting in there. Next thing it says to check your dowels and check the one with the O-ring on it, which is there. Make sure that's in, and then we get our cam holder on. This is the cam holder for this inlet one. Okay, I'm getting the drift of this setup. At the moment I've got the two cams here set up with number 4 lobes facing in. There is actually some painted marks on here, so they should both face in. Then you put you got your cam sprockets on loose. Then you put your cam holders on, and when you actually tighten the cam holders on, they do start compressing the valves, because not all the valves are going to be shut. So it's going to give you more or less tension on the cam chain to get your sprockets lined up. Yeah, it's really, you know, putting any motor together for the first time, you're always finding out stuff along the way, you know. And yeah, there's little tricks that you pick up, you know. It's like the camshaft here. The cam itself does have a ridge that runs in a groove there, and there on the holders, you know. Yeah, looking at overall at putting this this camshaft together, you would put your sprockets on your cams, thread your cams through the chain and sprockets. They'll be held. The sprockets would be loose. You would set your 2 sprockets up, your number 4 cylinders with the lobes pointing inwards. You would then get your holders on, making sure the O-rings are on this side only, because we're going to be connecting with the pipes. And yeah, once you put the holders on, you're actually pushing the valves down and the camshaft down, and it gives you less tension on here to get these sprockets on. Then you would jump the chain to line your inlet sprocket up, and then you would loosen off as much as you can on the tensioner and get this other sprocket on. Okay, just tensioning these up to 14 Newton meters. Well, it says to fill the defoaming chambers up and don't move the camshaft unless these are filled. I guess you don't want air getting into the system. I'll keep these filled up because I want to put this, get the bolts in this sprocket. Feel Loctite on the bolts. They get tensioned up to 19 foot-pound. No, sorry, 19 Newton meters. We're metric here. Okay, a bit of rag down there. Okay. Okay, that's that one tight. Yeah, they're all tight. Okay, we'll just check the timing once more. So I'll give it a full revolution. And top dead center is about there. Here's a final shot of the timing after I've rotated it around. The inlet cam facing inwards, so it's got a mark on it. Exhaust cam facing inward. The timing marks, dash there, inlet there, exhaust there, and a dash on the other side. So that's the engine now, exhaust or valve timing. it's all timed, ready to go. Just got to put the covers on here and the oil pipes and the cover, and that's the top end nearly done. Pretty well done. Okay, time for the defoaming covers to go back on. Okie dokie. 2 more to go on the other side and that's it. Okay, the next thing to go on is the top cam chain guide. That goes in there. Goes on like that. Needs to be tightened in. And then we've got our oil bolts, which have a copper washer on them. Copper washer goes on there and on there. There's none on the bottom. Just the one just on the top. And the pipe goes on the other side. 2 bolts in there. Okay, they get tightened up to 19, this one's 19 Newton meters. Well, the oil bolts, they get tension to 12 Newton meters. And of course the holder bolts were 15 Newton meters. Finally, the rocker cover goes on. I've just lightly glued that in with some quick glue to keep that in place. With the rocker cover, I ended up painting it and just polishing the ends. It's too difficult to get in all these little curves for polishing, so yeah, I just painted it, and I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. Right. I don't know what tension they have. Okay. Check it out. But that is just about it. Well guys, that's the top end of the CB750 F2 completely rebuilt. Yeah, it's been a long video, but I thought I'd put on as much information as I could, all on the one video, you know, rather than do it in sections. Yeah, the next episode is going to be getting the rest of the bits and pieces on. My wheels, I've painted them, fork legs have been painted, little bits and pieces of plastic, they've been painted too. So yeah, that'll be the next episode.